Welcome back everyone. So we're going to continue from the last session, which is the manual automation. So we're going to go into the API. From API manual to automation of the APIs actually. I'll just sweep past this one. I think the last session already actually covered most of these things. So one thing I want to also talk about is status code. I think he also actually discussed about this. So more often than not, you'll be looking for like 200 error status code. But there are other status codes that you should be familiar with actually, especially when you're going for interview. They might be asking you what is 400 bad requests or something like that. So you need to know. Uh, the common one will be 200 for and also 400, and also the 500 one for internal errors. So okay, all right. So we're going to start from where the last session stopped, which is from Postman. So I would just want to say, yeah, with assumption that now you know how Postman works. So, and this particular screen is familiar to you. If you don't know anything about Postman, or yeah, please do watch the last video about Postman. So what we going to do is like we need to enter our endpoint. So you enter your endpoint, that's first thing. Then number two, you change your method to the right one, whether it's a get, post, or put, and you change it to the right one. Then after that, you click on send. Then what I'm going to teach you right now is kind of a very easy way to get your code using Postman. But however, as you get better, you won't be using this basically. You'll be writing your code directly from Visual Studio, not from Postman. But since I'm assuming that now you get familiar with Postman, which is easy, then from there you set up your test from there. After you've done that, you can now export your code even to Visual Studio. So then after you export your code, you can actually now check those code and see what are the elements in the code, what are these the snippet, what is it saying. So this is going to be the step that we need to take. So then after you've clicked on the code, you need to change to the right language that you want, because it's actually supporting C#, Java, and the like, even with PHP. So after then you copy this code snippet that is given to you. So and okay, I'll just go through the slide, then we go through the implementation later. So then after that, you create your feature file. This we've done before. You create your step definition for that particular feature file. You create your step definition. So then from there, as in from the code that you've copied, you paste the code in your step definition. So after you paste it to your definition, then the next step is for you to add the Nugget package. So you're going to add red sharp Nugget package to your solution. So and after that, the next point, you might see some errors. The next point is for you to resolve those errors. So and what you can do is to add the using red sharp, or to click on the IntelliSense, and then you'll be able to see red sharp as part of the drop down, and you can click on it, and then you have this code snippet for you. Then you can run it. So that's where I'm going to stop right now. So we're going to go through the process once again now. So let's go to Postman. So I've got these two tests actually. So this is one that I can mention, so one of those endpoints. So I'm going to use this one. So, and also I think he also use this also. Think that should be, so 1 minute. So yeah, he also used this particular endpoint. So one question is that someone asks is that, how do I get the endpoint basically? This is the endpoint of that particular website that you are testing. So if you are not so sure, you should ask your developer that was the full endpoint. They would be able to advise you. So, but in most cases, it might be given to you, or you would even be able to figure it out actually. So this is the endpoint. This is the URL, and that is the endpoint basically. So this is my own Git repository. So as you can see, it's got details. When you actually go to that endpoint, you got the details there. So what do we do here right now? As like I said, put your endpoint here is a get that we are getting. So then you click on send. After you click on send, you also click on code, and then you change to this. So, and since we are using REST sharp, so we're going to click on REST sharp. So for C sharp basically, so you can copy that. So, and if I go into my code, I've already got some of those things, but I'm going to start all over. So let me close this once. So let's say we create a new feature file, and I click on spec flow, and I click on the, and I say it's basic API test. So I've got this, so I can just quickly. So I say, let's say this particular test is just for you to know your details that you've supplied in GitHub at the point of registration. You know those details, so you just want to confirm that the details are right. So let's say, so this is what I'm going to do first. So just to make sure it's easy. And also one thing I also want to emphasize also is like, this is basically normal text. So even if you put when and if you put given here, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. So it's normal text. So let's say we actually start that particular one. Let's create this one, generate a step, and generate. So we're going to generate it on our step definition, so the right one. So like I said, please make sure you put your step in the right place. Make sure you check the location and you are sure is the right place before you click on save. So then that should create our step definitions for me. So this is my step definition. So underscore this. So I can save that. So let me go back to the feature file that is being converted. So if I go into that, so I've got this one. So the next one for you to do is to copy the files, yeah, the code snippet rather. If you copy the code snippet, let's just dump it in here. So we're still going to refactor it, but this is just kind of the simple scenario. We're going to refactor it later. So now what we have here, it's basically so simple. What we just need to do is to resolve this. Make sure all these red are gone. Like I said, you need to add red sharp as part of the NuGet package. So you make sure you click on browse and you go to rest sharp. So that's it. I've already added it to the solution, so I'm not going to add it, but if you click on it, you should see install, but because I've already added that, as you can see, I've got uninstalled, so I'm not going to uninstall it. So but if you've not added it, you can just click install. That should do that for you. Once that has been installed, the next point is for you to resolve all the libraries using res sharp. So you can click on that, and that should resolve everything for you. So you can see the using res sharp is at the top now. So and that this is what you want to do, and this is only one step for us to put everything. Later we're going to refactor the step so that we don't just dump all this particular step in one step definition. So but what we're going to do now, let's just say it's in one step. Let's try to run it and ensure that we get something back. So let's put our breakpoint here and build our test to be sure everything is fine. So basic test, that's the one that we're looking for. So and let's debug and see what we have. Okay, another thing, because as you know, weeks of last week, we've been actually focusing on UI testing. So, and this particular solution that I am using right now are also used for the UI. So, because an API does not require you firing any browser. So if you are going to be using the same solution for the UI, there's a lot of things that you have to do. You need to go to your before and after scenario, and also make sure that it doesn't fire the browser for API tests. But if it does fire, it is okay. It's not going to do any harm anyway, but that is not how it should be done. So you should not fire a browser for any API test. So what you need to do is go to you ensure. Yeah, so we have to put an if statement so in there just to cover that when we can use the tag when the scenario tag is API, it should not actually fire this. But I'm going to just continue for now, so then I will look into this later. So now, okay, the next thing that I need to do now is to go to the next step. So let me go to the step into my code, then step over. So as you can see, one thing I also want to introduce right now is the variables that's been displayed there. I want you to also look into them to see what is actually happening. So because in the process of debugging, you are going to be looking at this. As you can see, our client is already being executed, so you have a lot of variables, properties here. You don't need to worry about that. So the only thing that you need to look into is your base URL. Your base URL, as you can see, is now the URL I passed. So that's your base URL that you've seen. So, and that is what you need to look into right now. So you don't need to worry about this, but as time goes on, I'll tell you where we can actually use it, because you can use it in the point at the point of your assertion to assert that is it really going to the right URL? Are you getting the endpoint, the right endpoint? You can assert that. So now let's go. So uh, the last tutorial that we had also spoke about the timeout. So basically it helps you to actually wait for your response. So so the next one is our request. So we've done our request now. Let's see what happens during the request. So you can see the method is get, and then that's what in the most we do not have anybody because it is not a post. So if it's a post, you get the body, and so other things is kind of null actually. So the only thing that I'm particular about at this point is a method, as you can see. So let's collapse that one and go to the next one. So more often I am really interested in my response. So my response is going to give me a lot of information that I need to validate. At this point right now, as you can see, my response is null because I have not executed it. So if I now go and I say step over or press F10, my response is now, it's got a lot of things inside. Let me now expand it. As you can see now, it's got content. So my content is there. It's got a lot of content. And then another thing that I want to also look into, it's got some headers, so that you might want to assert the server, the status, and everything, so that you, but more often, let's leave this for now. So another thing that you want to look into, like, is this particular request, is it successful? If you want to validate, you can validate that okay, it is successful by asserting that is successful is true. That is one thing to look into. And also you can also assert the response status to be sure that it is completed, that particular response is request is completed, and I've got my response back. So, and another thing also that we've mentioned is status code. So you can also validate that your status code is okay. So which is the what Postman will give us 200 for. So that is that. So another thing here, you might also do lot here, basically, in the sense that you would want to validate most of the content in this particular content. For instance, you want to also assert that has it got your name, has it got the right ID, has it got the right details inside. So you would put lots of assertion in this one. So that is what you would do here. So what I'm going to continue the test. So that is just debugging and ensuring that. So now, so we know that this particular code does work. So what do we need to do now? We now need to split it into different parts, and also because we know we have these feature files, and we have this feature file, and we have our when and our then clause. So if you look into this code snippet that we extracted, like I said in the first instance, you know, this code snippet is from Postman. Normally you won't actually extract if you are kind of okay, because we are talking about if you are a newcomer, yeah, you would, it's okay to copy it. But even if you start writing yours, it's not going to be much difference from this particular one, but it's only that you would write it differently basically. But this I've shown you that it still does, it works actually. It gets your response from the request that you supply, so which I think is still okay. So then what do we need to do now? We need to, as I said, we need to split this into different steps. So we going to have the given. So the first one is given, you have start is going to be this one basically. So then the next one is going to be your request, and of course which is going to be, so, and there are different people, different way that people write API steps. So some people write it technical, like giving, I send a post and or I send a get and I do this, and I've been in discussion that that is not the right approach, because this is BDD, is behavioral. So you need to, like, kind of, as you are writing your normal Selenium BDD, that's the same way you're going to also write it basically. So when I have access to GitHub or GitHub website, then, and when I search for a user, then the, so let's just say this simple test actually. So you search for a user and the result is displayed. Basically, that is so small, only little. So now, what? How do we separate this, the code snippet, into this particular or this bit? So first thing, let's first generate our step definition first. So if we generate and copy the code snippet and go to our step definition for the basic APIs, let's paste those ones. So now we need to split this now into this bit. So we've not actually done any assertion because we know our then clause is where assertion is. So basically what we are looking to split is this particular code snippet into here and here, our given and our when. So how we're going to split it is like this one. So we put it like, so the first one, this one goes to the URL, and the second one, this one does the request, basically, like kind of you are searching. So that's what it does. So but now you can see this is complaining, right? Because it doesn't exist. Why? Because we actually declare this particular client variable inside this method, because this method we declare inside this method. This method doesn't have visibility to be able to see that particular client. What do? We need to move it out. We need to declare it at the top. So we're going to say var client. So then we can, so I think we can actually bring the, so we can, yeah, we brought that one out. So this is one way, this is different, there are different ways to do it, but I've now brought it, put the REST client as my client, and now it's done. So, and this is only printing, right? So the next one that I want to do is my then clause. What am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to assert dot So if I use n unit assertion this time around, and I know uh, I've used fluent assertion 2 weeks ago. So this time around, I'm going to use the n unit assertion. So I'm going to say request, right? Request. So I'm going to assert that I'm going to get the content for the request. So, but however, the same thing applies here actually. So my request, I declared it inside my method because it's inside this method. This method is not actually seeing it. So I need to declare it inside the parent, which is the class. So that it can be is also now visible. So I'm going to remove the declaration, the var declaration. I'm going to say rest request request. So I would do something like that. So and now, so what I'm going to do now, so my request is now here. So now request dot, so content, so which is the content that's coming out of, no, sorry, actually looking for the response. No, I don't need. So the request is already been executed there. So what I need is a response. So I would need to declare this actually. So I need to this response. So what I need is my response. Is my response that I need to validate, not the request, basically. So I need to get the uh, content from the response, basically. So response, I need to assert that. So which is that is getting dots assert that dots. So I think it's got something. So I just want to say it is not null or something. Something is neat. So I need just hold on. So just to say, okay, something is displayed in the content, basically, and so and that is one. So, but the best one to do is when my result is displayed, I want to be able to check the status. I think that's the right one to look into. Actually, dash status code is equal to okay. So because I just need to convert this one to string so that I can be able to compare with another string anyway. So, and this one basically will look into the status code that's returned, and this one will look into the content that's been returned and ensure that it's got something, and this one ensures that it is. You can as well also validate that the there's other thing that you can also validate from there, which is we saw the completion one, right? So, or is successful or something like that. So yeah, it's successful. So, and you can also do that one also. So when we check that it's successful, let's look into, okay, let's go into that. It's successful to string, and I think that actually brought, I'm not sure what, we can check through. Okay, thank you. So, so we can put that in there true. Okay, let's try to run this and see what, I'll put the breakpoint at this point and see. So for us to basic test, it's mine. Okay, it's not. Okay, so that's my test. So let's debug it. Okay. Okay, so let's go as that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. So as you can see, basically that's how to do that. So so if you continue, so we kind of have a simple test now to just to verify that the result is true. But let's now have another scenario to validate the content. So let's say we now want to validate the content. So user details. So let's change this one to, so, or returned. So, but this one would now validate the contents of that user right now. So this still will still remain the same. You still do your search, and then, so let's say we still leave this as result displayed, but we want to expand on that one and say, and the details contains, so let's say the G. So let's say this now. So, and we just want to search that the details that is returned contains my name. So let's go and copy, and then we put into our step, and we would, so let's, in this instance now, so let's say this is users. So in this instance, I would use Flint assertion and say, so that at the top we'll use a unit assertion. So this time around I'll use Flint assertion. User should. So this is bringing that. So I will using fluent assertion at this time. So dot contain, what is it? Contain, oh no, this is no. So this should be, this is what is going to contain anyway. So not, so what should be here? This one should be response dot content. Response dot content should contain users. So that is what we are expecting. So let's put a breakpoint and remove the other ones. Oh, I think I didn't even stop. Mm. Oh, sorry. I think I was running a different one. So yeah, I need to resolve this before we leave. Okay, so this is going to come here. So and that is that, because that is the G, and the response also contains the. Also, if you check the response, the content actually is got that is containing that. So and so the same way you can also check the IG and other things like that. So um, any question? So this is not going to be kind of a heavy load actually. So it's just a basic test that you can expand from there. You can test as many things as you want. So any question? Any question? So our time is fast spent. So if you are using Bearer token, yeah, so you just put it and then put the Bearer token in there, and once you send, the Bearer token are added is not valid. That's where you're actually seeing it. So you can actually verify that in this Bearer token that you supply, you get this error code because it's not valid. So you just copy the code, and this code is different from the one that we got before. It's now got authorization, and it's got a Bearer and with the token that you're expecting to put in there. If the token is valid, you will get status 200. So which I think is really, really good. So you can do with that. So if you then decide to use uh, basic authentication, you just put your email address and passcode. And so if you send that one, so it's still not valid. So, well, if you copy the code, as you can see now, the authentication is now basic authentication, and your username and passcode now has got like kind of a cookies that you can use to validate your request basically. So that's what you would do. So you just copy that the same way we've done. Copy it in your code from here. So this does not change. So we copy this away and we put this one here. So this one also doesn't change. So this one is the one that we need to add now to this one so that we use assurance. So and yeah, so that's just it basically. So this is now using basic authentication. So if you don't need it, then you will leave it. So I would just copy the next one for another authorization. So if you, I think we also did the bearer token. So no, I need to send it then. So that is for the bearer token. So, but you would, in most cases, require only one anyway. So you don't need to. So that's I just commented the other ones out. So yeah, that is that. If you need to use authentication for, you would put it in this instance. Before you send your request out, you will add your all the headers to your request basically. And the same thing also is applicable to when you have post. If it's a post and then you have body, and let's say the body is, let's put the form, and let's say I've got username, say it's DG, and that's the body I'm expecting. So, and as I send, then if you copy code, so you can see the body is now added, so as a parameter. So that's how to do that. So the body will just come, and what you just need to add is this bit. For the post, so basically this will change to a post. This will change to a post as you've seen here. So instead of a post that is a get, that will be a post. So you change that to a post, or you put in a new method. So let's say we use a new method basically. So just this is just an example anyway. So I'm going to copy this one out and put it on this one. So then remove the one I copied in. Okay. So basically now for the post, this is the post. I've got the authentication also in there. So, and also I've got my content type with a banner. Then I've got the parameter, which is the post parameter I'm posting. So, and that's it really. So yeah. Any more questions? Let's see. Got a few questions coming in. All right, cool. All right, so if there's no more question, we would just call it. I've tried to push this to the GitHub anyway, so but if you can, I've got other ones, the previous lessons on my GitHub. I'll put it also. So I think if you go in here, you would see repository. Yeah. So this is the last one that we did. So I'll post this one. This hasn't got, I think, yeah, it's going to be here anyway. So I've already created this. I'm going to push it into that. So I should be able to say git. Okay, API is added. All right, I think that's it anyway. So we'll meet again next week. I think I've already pushed what we've done, so it should be in there. I'll clean it up later. So that should contain that should contain the API now. Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. So we'll start the mobile testing next week. So this is going to be technically the end of the automation testing for now. So unless anything changes, so we will start the mobile testing from next week.